This is looting. Now, often the principal mechanical or tactical processes that we use in gaming remain fundamental to how well we will perform. And today, I'll be revisiting a game principle that I first looked at back in 2012, and it's what I call OMF. Now, some of my older videos, I often feel it's a shame that they got kind of passed by in terms of sort of viewership compared to how some of the videos do now. And with that in mind, I want to kind of revisit, come back to, and look at some of these important principles. Now, it's a general principle which stands for objective, momentum, and flexibility. It's something that I've found is a very quick and simple way to explain to people what three of the most important primary things that should be in your mind if you're looking for victory in Battlefield. Now, what's great about OMF is that there's nothing complex to it. You can explain it in moments to a new player and it's not difficult to remember, but as with muscle memory for mechanical gameplay, it should just be in your mind when playing in order to give you the most strength to you and also your team. It's very easy in games of Battlefield to get distracted or pulled off into 1v1 battles with other players, or especially vehicle combat, and Lord knows I do it myself, we all do. But these kind of distractions are constantly pulling you away from the most vital elements that should be in your attention. And all the time you waste not focusing on the game in a whole sense means that your tickets are burning and your position in the game becomes weaker. The best example of when OMF applies is at the beginning of a game, when you need to make that important establishing attack, or after capping a position and moving to the next. This is when you should be assessing targets on the move and deciding how to approach the enemy. Now, examples of when it could be applied to prioritise an action could be a tank firing at long range, snipers on hilltops, or air vehicles. And my first question to squad mates will usually be something like, are they a priority threat or controlling our objectives? And if I can't see this, I need to find out from other people. And if the answer is no, then just leave them be in the short term, because vehicles and other targets like that are always very important to keep an eye on, see what's happening. But focusing on and analysing threats in game is highly important, and that's where OMF comes into play. So let's take a look at the three parts of OMF. Objective. Keeping your objective in mind and analysing it at all times is highly important. Not only where it is located and which route to take, but how it relates to your team. What environmental factors like building and terrain will be an advantage or disadvantage to you. How is the enemy team playing for the objective, either to defend it or attack yours? Are they aggressive or more passive? What surrounding elements can be used to make your team stronger or to defend against an enemy? How does your team need to work to achieve its goals? Should it split up, rush the objective, or lock an area down? And what does your role need to be based on this and your current team's playstyle? Because we know obviously you can't always tell a whole team what to do, so you have to sometimes look at what's happening and then fill in the gaps based on that information. And with that in mind, are you ready to use what equipment may be necessary at any given moment as the game progresses? Momentum. Now, this is very important in any game mode. Keeping momentum or preventing it in defense will help you in taking control of a map or objective. A team with strong momentum in a game will be more successful in every other aspect, as the pressure they apply will create more disorganization amongst the opposing team and consequently will mean you essentially steamroll them and never allow them to get back up on their feet. Momentum does not always have to mean speed. What we're talking about here is that you keep control of areas that you want to, and you keep aggressive pressure on the enemy at all times. There are situations where you want to allow the enemy to come to you, but just being in control and letting the enemy move where you want them to is the key thing to focus on. So when we talk about momentum, what we mean is moving to places where you need to be quickly and with some initiative. Pushing and keeping pressure on the enemy so they don't respawn fast enough to then dig in and set up an airtight defense. You must maintain pressure on the enemy to remain in control of the game, and this is one part of what will help you progress to gain the objectives and win. Flexibility. This has a range of applications, but is perhaps the most critical element of all. To be ready to change your tactics, change your gear setup, and most importantly, go from a defense to an attack role to suit whatever map, game mode and tactics your opposing team decide to use. Being an expert with one weapon or class is always going to be a strong card in your hand, but being competent and more importantly willing to pick up any piece of equipment, class or vehicle in-game makes you a flexible player to any game situation. You may also find yourself in a position where the enemy team do not conform to any sort of game plan, but still are the stronger team. In this event, it will be hard to predict what to play to best counter them, and this makes your ability to be adaptable to whatever comes your way even more important. Be aware of what's going on, think about what's happening in the bigger picture, and don't get tunnel vision or only stick to one tactic or weapon style. If your game is not working well, then analyse quickly why not, and try changing to a new tactic or setup. So this was my short and concise revisit to one of the key components that exists for me in playing Battlefield, or indeed any tactical FPS. It's a foundation concept that you can build upon with individual gameplay styles, but that will give yourself and your team the best chance of success by thinking of OMF. As always, we know that some games can be insurmountable dependent on the setup of each team, but despite that, I always try my hardest myself to turn the game and push that objective. Tactics can be a strong tool for any player to turn your game into a more constructive, more enjoyable experience. And I know that you guys, from the feedback you've given me in the past, it's something that I'm very happy that I've been able to share and help out people to enjoy the game more and also be stronger players. That was the whole purpose of why I started out as a YouTube producer. So be sure to hit that like button guys if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you next time for some more Battlefield 4.